Hello, my wonderful math friends. I want to talk to you about your assignment for today and give you a few helpful hints to get you started. First thing I always encourage kids to do is circle or highlight or underline the directions. And then ask yourself, what am I being asked to do? Because sometimes one set of directions will give you 1, 2, or even 3 things to do. Now, the first thing that I notice about these instructions is that they remind us to use mental math to find each quotient. Now remember, a quotient is the answer to a division problem. And when they say mental math, they mean there's no need for you to upload any work to go with this because they're asking you to do it as much as you can in your head without paper and pencil. If you are a person who struggles to remember your times tables, no worries. I want you to, continue to practice your times tables, and I do want you to learn them. But for an assignment like this, it's okay with me if you want to get like a printed multiplication table to reference. You know the ones I'm talking about where it shows like a whole bunch of rows and a whole bunch of columns, and it says the multiples, like it'll say, well, that's way too small, but it'll say like 2, 4, 6, 8, and then going down, it will say 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 4, 8, 12, and so on. And you kind of use it to figure out your multiplication, or in this case, your division. So if you want to use one of those, if you don't have all these memorized, go for it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first one asks us to figure out 27 divided by 9. Now, another thing you can do if you're not super comfortable with your division facts is flip-flop this and ask yourself, what is 9 times some number equals 27? You may know that one more automatically than you know your division facts. So I know that 9 times 3 equals 27. So that means that 27 divided by 9 equals 3. Then they ask you to take that knowledge, the knowledge that 27 divided by 9 equals 3, and figure out how that would help you solve 270 divided by 9. So if 27 divided by 9 equals 3, then I know that 270 divided by 9 must be 30. So let's break that down a little bit more, okay? So hold on, let me grab this. Problem. So instead, what we do is we learn to match up our number of zeros kind of strategically so that we have 270 divided by 9 is 30, and that we used our basic fact over here to help us figure this out. You just have to match up your number of zeros. So over here I've got 1 0 in my dividend, so I must also have 1 0 in my quotient. Okay, so the way I want to explain this to you is think about what a multiplication or division expression is. When we look at it in terms of multiplication, we know that 3 groups of 9 equals 27. So I could look at, here's my first group of 9. If I have 2 of those, I have 18. And if I have 3 of those, I have 27. Similarly, if I take 27 all together, which is what this is, that's 27 pieces all together, when I divide them into 3 equal groups, 1, 2, 3 equal groups, I end up with 9 in each group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's my 27 divided by 9 equals 3. 27 divided by 9 equals 3. And here's my 3 equal groups. Now let's consider 270 divided by 9. So this is basically saying instead of 27 altogether, which is what I showed you first, Now we need to end up with a total of 270. Okay, so I didn't want to make you watch me duplicate all those, but I made 10 groups of 9 to start with. So here's one group of 9, and I have 10 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that gives me 90. I need to end up with 270. So I've got to duplicate these. Let's see if I can do that kind of neatly here. Yes, awesome. Okay, so that is, let's see, that's 2 groups of 90, so that's 180. And then I can do it one more time. I'm gonna really be squeezed for space. There we go. Okay, let me make these smaller. Ooh, I didn't like that. Will it be in a group? Okay, yes, it will. Okay, I'm gonna make these smaller. All right, so this is a total of 270 little cubes altogether. There's my 270. And I divided them into groups of 9, because with division you can imagine it as being either how many in each group, or you can imagine it as how many groups. So in this case, we've got how many in each group. We've got 9 in each group. And so the question is, how many groups do we have? How many groups? So if you count these all up now, how many groups of 9 are we going to have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's a group of 10. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's another group of 10. And then last but not least, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's my third group of 10. Now, it would take you a crazy amount of time to draw all these cubes if you were doing this. Okay, now let's extend that reasoning one step further. If 27 divided by 9 equals 3, and 270 divided by 9 equals 30, what do you think 2,700 divided by 9 is going to be? Here I've got 1 0 in my dividend and 1 0 in my quotient, and here I have 2 zeros in my dividend. So I must also have 2 zeros in my quotient. So that should be 300. Okay, now we're going to do questions 4, 5, and 6. And we're kind of training our brain to see patterns here. So I'm actually going to rewrite these vertically because I think that will help us. So 24 divided by 4, 240 divided by 4, and 2,400, 2,400 divided by 4. All right, so this is where you need to grab that multiplication chart if you happen to not have this memorized, or if you're a person who, if you see a division expression like this and you need to flip-flop it to multiplication, then you would say 4 times what number will give you 24. And of course, the answer is 4 groups of 6 will give you 24. So 24 divided by 4 is 6. That means, whoops, I didn't write this next one correctly. That means that 240 divided by 4, we've got to match up our number of zeros now. How many zeros do I have here? Just 1 0 in my dividend. So that means I must also have 1 0 in my quotient. So 240 divided by 4 is 60. Now for this next one, I've got 2 zeros in my dividend. So I must also have 2 zeros in my quotient. 2,400 divided by 4 equals 600. So notice your non-zero digits stay the same. 24 divided by 4 equals 6. And here we've got 24 divided by 4 equals 6. 24 divided by 4 equals 6. All of that stays the same. It's the zeros that we then have to match up. Okay, now I'm going to try a little experiment to see if I can find an easier way to demonstrate this concept for you. So I've got, let's see, 6 columns, and now I'm going to make 4 rows for a total of 24 little squares. And my thinking is that this is a way to remind you that 24, if you have 24 all together, you can divide that into 4 equal pieces, which I'm showing you by highlighting my 4 equal pieces. And so how many do we have in each piece? We have 6 in each piece, okay? So you can see that 6 in each piece. If you grab this and pull it away, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in each piece, okay? So now let's take that idea and kind of extend it and try to use it to prove why, if you have 240 altogether and still dividing them into 4 equal pieces, so this 4, that's going to show us 4 equal pieces. And so the question is, how many in each piece? How many in each piece? So when you think of it that way, it makes sense that if I took my whole, which is my array, and made it way bigger, basically if we're going to multiply it by 10, aren't we? We're going to have 10 groups of these guys. I'm going to need another whole sheet here. And I'm using up a lot of space. When Miss Lynn gets excited about math, she starts using E4. That was this guy. I made 10 copies of this 24. And this is our question that we want to figure out. If we have a total of 240 divided by 4, are we truly going to have 60 in each piece? Let me go. I'm getting excited. A whole lot of space. Okay, let me pause this for just a sec. Okay, be patient with me, guys. I know I get really excited about this stuff, but look, I made 10 copies of my next page. Okay. Paste. Oops. Okay, 240 divided into 4 equal groups. We have a red group, a blue group, a green group, and a yellow group. Do we really have 60 in each of those groups? That's what we want to prove. Okay, so now the easiest thing for me to do is if I can make these a little smaller and kind of put them all together, maybe you'd be able to see it. I don't know. Maybe that's just nutty bananas. Okay, so look, I made them really tiny because I wanted you to see that it's still a red group, a blue group, a green group, and a yellow group. And we want to know, since we have these 4 groups, are we going to have 60 pieces in our red group and 60 pieces in our blue group? Okay, so let's see. Our red group right here, see our red group? That has 6 pieces in it. And another 6 makes 12. Another 6 red pieces makes 18. Another 6 red pieces makes, oh gosh, hold on. 6 times 4 is 24. 30. 36. 42. 48. 54. And 60. Yay! So there's 60 red pieces, 60 blue pieces, 60 green pieces, and 60 yellow pieces for a total of 250. 240. I proved it. Yay. Okay, so now it's good to just know that 240 divided by 4 equals 60, and 2,400 divided by 4 equals 600. It's good to just know that quickly and automatically without spending a lot of time on it, but I also want you to start to kind of train your brain to be thinking about, well, but is it really true? Can I prove it, maybe using a model or some other way of like proving to yourself what I'm telling you, which is that you need to match up your number of zeros. 1 0 in the dividend, 1 0 in your quotient. 2 zeros in your dividend, 2 zeros in your quotient. Okay, so that brings us up to problems 7, 8, and 9, which I'm going to let you do on your own and see how you do. Just remember, match up your zeros. 1 0 in our dividend, 1 0 in our quotient. This one also just has 1 0, so we're going to have 1 0 in our quotient. 2 zeros in our dividend, 2 zeros in our quotient. And I guess what they're doing here, I didn't realize this at first, they're leaving you on your own to figure out what basic division fact you're going to use to solve those. Okay, so if you need a times table handy to figure that out, you might want to use that, like I did here. Okay, story problem. If a bike race covers 120 miles over 6 days, and the cyclists ride the same distance each day, how many miles does each cyclist ride each day? Now, when you're working on a story problem, it's always a good idea to kind of picture it in your mind. Make a picture in your mind, just the way you would do if you were reading a story from Mrs. McCluskey's class. So the way I'm going to picture this is I'm going to imagine a map. Let me make my map bigger. Just like I tend to talk a lot, I also do not do a very good job limiting myself to small amounts of space. Okay, so here's my map, and here's the starting point for the race, and it's going to kind of meander all around until they get to the finish line. Finish and start. This is my picture in my mind, so yours might look different. I don't know. Okay, and it tells me that the cyclists are going to go a total of 120 miles. So from here all over this map to the finish line is a total of 120 miles. Okay, and it says the cyclist can ride the same distance each day. So we're basically going to take this map and chop it up into 6 days worth of riding. So like this would be day 1, and then this would be day 2, and this would be, whoa, goodness, that was fancy. Okay, this would be day 3, and then yellow is going to be day 4, back to red again is day 5, and then blue is day 6 to finish. Okay, so they're going to race. This is a 6-day, geez Louise, this is a 6-day bike race. That's pretty serious. It's going to take them 6 days to do all that. So we're essentially going to divide our 120 miles by the 6 days that they'll be riding, and then we have to ask ourselves, what will our answer represent? Our answer is going to represent the miles they ride each day. Miles they ride each day. So this red squiggle that I made at first, this is going to be day 1. We want to know how far they need to ride on day 1. How far will they ride on day 1? And how far will they ride on day 2 and on day 3 and so on? Okay, so if that seems like a lot of work to do just to read and understand the problem, you're right, but it's totally worth it because it's going to pay off when I know if my answer makes sense or not. Okay, 120 divided by 6. Let's start with something a little easier. Do you know what 12 divided by 6 is? And if you don't, do you know what 6 times some number will give you 12? Ah, that's right. 6 times 2 is 12, which means that 12 divided by 6 must be 2. You see how your multiplication and your division help each other? Now, I have 1 0 in my dividend, which means I must also have 1 0 in my quotient, or my answer. So 120 divided by 6 is not going to be 2, but it's actually going to be 20. So each day they're going to go 20 miles. That's actually not that bad when you think about it. You can go 20 miles on a bike. Equation and diagrams to represent your thinking. What they don't want to see is something like this, where you're figuring out, okay, 6 goes into 1 no times. 0 times 6 is 0. Subtract. They don't want to see long division for this. Okay, now we're on to part 2 of our assignment, and notice they're giving you a reminder that we're using mental math, meaning we're trying to use our times tables to solve these problems in our head. Okay, so that means, you can, because you should be able to do it in your head using your facts that you know. All right, let's read. If the vehicles are divided evenly between the sections, how many vehicles are in each section? Okay, so this is where the things you're learning with Mrs. McCluskey are going to help you, because we need to look at this and read it and understand it in order to answer the question. So this says dealership vehicle storage. Dealership meaning like Honda dealership or Mazda dealership. So it's a car dealership, and they have sections of vehicles. It tells us that they have 4 sections. So I'm imagining 4 large parking lots probably filled with cars. Let me sketch. Always a good idea to make a sketch. Here's my 4 large sections, and we've got a whole bunch of cars. Holy moly, they've got 1,200 cars for sale. Look at that. 1,000. So our total, okay, it's good. It just helps me to keep track of these things. Our total is 1,200 cars, and then it tells us that rows per section, meaning rows in each section, 10. Okay, well, 10 is a nice friendly number. I can work with that. So we've got to have 10 rows. 1, 2, 3. Oh gosh, there we go again. Hold on, I need to do this more strategically. Okay, first divide it in half, then make 4 lines in each half for 5 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now I've got 10 rows in that. Okay, and then I've got to have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This just helps me to visualize. You do not by any means have to draw your picture this detailed, but it does help me. If the vehicles are divided evenly between the sections, how many vehicles are in each section? So you're basically taking your, if I understand this correctly, you're taking your 1,200 cars. Now, how many groups do we need to divide this into? This is where I have to puzzle this out. Because there's 4 of these sections, so I'm going to arrange them vertically because that will, I think, help me. Copy, paste, and then paste one more time. Come on. So I'm thinking you could do this either 1,200 divided by 4, and then our answer is going to represent the number of cars in each of these little rows here, in each of these little groups. So 1,200 divided by 4. Let me start with just 12 divided by 4, which is 3. And then I know, let me make some space. Okay, and I have 2 zeros. Whoops, that was supposed to be highlighting. So my quotient also needs to have 2 zeros. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 2 zeros gives me 300. Okay, So I've got 300 of these little rows that I marked out. 300 of these little rows. There's 300 of these. How many vehicles are in each section? See, this is why I had to do this twice and think out loud about it, because this is not the answer I want. I don't have 300 cars in each of these sections. I've got 300 sections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1,200 divided by 40, because actually I have 40 of these little itty bitty sections of cars. This is a hard problem. I love it. I've got 40 of these guys. So if I divide 12, let me start with my non-zero digits first. 12 divided by 4 gives me 3. And then, ooh, tricky, tricky, tricky. Okay. I've got 2 zeros here, but I have 1 0 here. So these two actually cancel each other out. Oh my gosh, so our quotient will only have 1 0. I don't even know how to teach you that right at this very moment. 30 is the answer. There's 30 cars in each section. Okay, no, I did it right. I was second guessing myself. It's always good to go back, read that problem one more time. Okay, if the vehicles are divided evenly between the sections, how many vehicles are in each section? Okay, we have 300 vehicles in each section. Then it says, if the vehicles are divided evenly between the rows in each section, how many vehicles are in each row? So for that, sorry guys, I would take my 300 vehicles that are in each section and divide it by the 10 little rows that I have. There's 10 rows in this section here, and that would give me my 30. Okay, so 30 is the answer here. When I was getting myself briefly confused, and I looked at this and I kind of panicked, and I said, okay, well, we've got 2 zeros here and we've got 1 0 here, and so these two kind of cancel each other out, which leave us with just 1. So let's kind of take that and break it down a little bit. Okay, last 3 problems. Stay strong with me, guys, here. Okay, so let's look at number 13. If 160,000 divided by n equals 4, find n. This is a little bit of algebra for you. They're telling us that 160,000 divided by some mystery number. We don't know the value of that mystery number yet. If that equals 4, we need to find the value of n, the mystery number. So let's start with not this huge number, 160,000, because that's just a little bit too much for me right now. Let's just start with 16 divided by mystery number equals 4. What is 16 divided by mystery number equals 4? Well, I bet you know that 4 times 4 equals 16, right? So that would mean that 16 divided by 4 equals 4. And I bet you could use that to figure out that 160 divided by 4 must be 40, because I've got 1 0 here, and I've got 1 0 in my quotient. And I bet you could then continue on and say that 1,600 divided by 4 equals 400. Now let's go back over to our crazy problem here. How many zeros do we have here? 1, 2, 3. We have 4 zeros here. Remember in this other, think about what we learned in our fact families. We can take our dividend and flip-flop the divisor, right? And get the quotient. So we can take 1,600 divided by 4 equals 400 and say, okay, 1,600 divided by 400 equals 4. I've got 2 zeros here. and I've got 2 zeros here. On this side of my equal sign, they cancel each other out and leave me with no zeros on this side of my equal sign. Same thing with this. I'm going to take 160,000 divided by 4, and I'm going to make my number of zeros match. Okay, so I've got 4 zeros on this side of the equation. I also need to have 4 zeros on this side of the equation. Divide my non-zero digits. 16 divided by 4 equals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4,000. The value of n is 4,000. True story, I don't think I taught that very well. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep things like not too complicated, but I also keep getting myself distracted and getting overly complicated where I don't need to. Last problem, we can do it. All right, let's finish strong. We can do it. Find 32,000 divided by 8 mentally. So let's start with our non-zero digits first. What is 32 divided by 8? And if you don't know that, you need to ask yourself, 8 times what will give me 32? 4. Okay, so 32 divided by 8 equals 4. And I've got, let's see, 32,000 divided by 8. 1, 2, 3 zeros. So I've got to have 3 zeros on this side. 4,000. A. Okay, solve the equation. N times 50 equals 5,000. So here's that little, they're giving us a little taste of algebra here. Some mystery number times 50 will give us 5,000. N times 50 equals 5,000. Well, let's see. It's either going to be 10, 100, or 1,000. Because when I multiply my non-zero digits, I'm going to get my 5, which is here, right? So 10 times 5 equals 5. Do I have the right number of zeros here? 1, 2. 1, 2. That gives me 500, so that can't be right. If I take 100 times 50, we're going to multiply our non-zero digits first. 1 times 5 equals 5. And I've got 1, 2, 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3 zeros. So does that give me 5,000? Yes, it does. So N must be 100. All right, you guys, I'm so proud of you. If you made it to the end of this video, you are seriously my hero.